The elevator doors opened with a faint chime. Maya stepped out, adjusting the strap of her fabric tote bag. Her eyes scanned the marble floor, then the sign above the reception desk. Strathmore Equity, 42nd floor. She had the right place. Inside, the reception area was all glass, chrome, and understated luxury. The receptionist looked up with a perfunctory smile, the kind that didn't quite reach the eyes. Maya smiled softly. I'm here for the 10 o'clock appointment. The receptionist's fingers hovered over her keyboard. She frowned. Delivery. Maya blinked once. No. I'm here for the executive interview. The pause was longer this time. Oh, the receptionist said, adjusting her posture slightly. Name? Maya Collins. There was a beat of silence as the name seemed to land. The receptionist nodded and typed. Please take a seat. Maya did. A few feet away, a woman in red-soled heels and a blazer that probably cost more than Maya's rent clicked by, giving her a glance. Not rude. Not kind. Just calculated. The waiting area filled with the quiet hum of soft jazz and occasional footsteps. Maya opened her folder, checked her notes. She'd done this dozens of times, but today felt different. Not because she wasn't ready. Because she already knew how this would begin. 10 minutes later, the double doors opened. Claudia Sutter stepped out, clipboard in hand, expression clipped. She scanned the room, her eyes landing on the sharply dressed young man sitting 2 seats away from Maya. Mr. Langston? She asked, her voice bright, professional. He stood, extending a hand. Not me. I'm here for legal. Claudia turned, her eyes narrowing slightly as they moved past Maya, then came back. You're Maya? Her tone shifted, less brightness, more surprise. Maya nodded once, standing slowly. Claudia's smile didn't quite settle. Right? Sorry, I just wasn't expecting, well, come in. She stepped aside without waiting. Maya followed, her shoes quiet on the tile. The conference room they entered was bathed in morning light, the table long and empty, a carafe of water placed precisely in the center. Claudia gestured to a chair, then sat across from her. She didn't open the file. So, Claudia began, resting her chin lightly on one hand. We're interviewing for a support role today, correct? Assistant to the director. Maya tilted her head slightly. No. Executive Director of Strategic Operations. Claudia blinked. That's what I'm here for, Maya added calmly. That's the role your recruiter reached out to me about. The silence stretched, just long enough to be uncomfortable. Claudia glanced at the folder on the table but didn't open it yet. I see. There must have been a mix-up in communication, she said, adjusting her posture, smoothing her skirt. I'll need to double-check that. Maya said nothing. Just waited. The room felt colder than before. Claudia opened the folder slowly now, scanning the first page. As she read, her expression tightened, but this time not in judgment. In recognition. She cleared her throat. Let's proceed. But Maya had already seen what she needed to. Claudia flipped another page, her eyes darting across lines she should have read before this moment. Maya waited. Her hands rested lightly on her lap, fingers still. She'd learned long ago that stillness unsettled people who were used to control. So, Claudia said, a little too quickly, you're currently at Fenwick Partners? Until last week, Maya replied. I left after finalizing the Paragon merger. Claudia nodded, but her eyes gave her away. She didn't know what the Paragon merger was. That's a major consolidation, Maya added, her tone even. 6 regional divisions, 2 international subsidiaries, full systems integration under deadline. I led that. Claudia reached for her pen, made a note that didn't look like anything. There was a pause. And before that? Claudia asked. 13 years at Wellington Drake. Started as a junior analyst, left as VP of Strategic Growth. Claudia pressed her lips together. I see. The silence thickened again. It wasn't hostility. Not anymore. Something else had crept in. Doubt. But not about Maya. About every assumption Claudia had walked in with. Maya reached into her folder and placed a single sheet of paper in the center of the table. Here's a summary of the impact metrics from the last 3 quarters. Forecasting models. Implementation reports. All from projects I managed directly. Claudia picked up the paper. Paper doesn't lie. Her eyes moved over the numbers, then back up to Maya. She didn't smile this time. She looked uncertain. And Maya just waited. Claudia leaned back in her chair. She wasn't ready to admit it, but Maya could see the change. Her posture, less poised now, less assured. Like the ground beneath her had tilted just slightly. These projections, Claudia said, tapping the paper, you built these? Maya nodded once. From scratch. Modeled on existing revenue structures with adjustment for market volatility. That's why the projections outpaced actuals by only 1.3%. Claudia hesitated. Then said, impressive. It sounded rehearsed. Like something said out of obligation, not belief. Maya didn't flinch. The numbers speak for themselves. Claudia offered a thin smile. They do. Though I must admit, I didn't expect someone with your background to present with this level of precision. There it was. Not the word she used. The one she didn't. Maya held her gaze. What background is that? Claudia shifted. I meant, not many candidates come from a non-Ivy background and climb this quickly. I've had to climb differently, Maya replied, her voice low but firm. Not faster. Just with more weight. That silenced Claudia. For the first time, her eyes dropped. Not out of shame, but something close to it. Maya didn't push the moment. Just let it sit. The air in the room felt different now. Quieter. Claudia looked down at her notes, but it was obvious she wasn't reading. Her pen hovered uselessly above the page. She wasn't in control of this room anymore. Maya didn't move. She had learned long ago not to fill silence. Let them feel it. Let them sit with what they said or didn't. Finally, Claudia spoke again, her voice a little softer. Your references, we haven't contacted them yet. Standard process. Maya nodded. They're expecting your call. Though I imagine the one from Edwin Marks will stand out. Claudia blinked. Edwin Marks. Yes, Maya said. CEO of Wexbridge Holdings. He mentored me for 6 years. Claudia's face changed. Just slightly. But Maya noticed. Is that Claudia stopped herself? You know him personally? I worked directly under him on 4 major expansions. He offered to fly in today, but I said no. I wanted to be seen first. Without the echo of someone else's name. Claudia leaned back. Her hands folded now. Still not speaking? Maya continued. I figured if I didn't look the part, I might not be heard. That landed harder than anything else she'd said. Because it was true, and Claudia knew it. Outside the glass walls, the office buzzed as usual, keyboards tapping, muted voices, the occasional ring of a phone. But inside the conference room, the noise didn't touch them. Claudia cleared her throat. Let me be honest, she began, folding her hands. I assumed something different when I saw you in the lobby. Maya didn't respond. She didn't need to. Claudia looked at her, really looked this time, not at the sweater, the simple tote, or the lack of high-end polish. Just her. I've sat in this seat a long time, Claudia continued, and I thought I was past those kinds of blind spots. Maya raised an eyebrow, not unkindly. You're not alone. Claudia's face tightened. Not with offense, more like recognition. I'm not excusing it, she said. But I see it now. Maya gave a small nod. The important part is what happens after you see it. That stopped Claudia. Not because it was confrontational. Because it wasn't. It was just a sentence. But it carried the weight of every room Maya had walked into unseen. The door opened slightly, an assistant peeked in. Miss Sutter, the next candidate is early. Should I? Claudia didn't look up. Tell them to wait. The door clicked shut. Maya's folder still sat on the table. Unmoved. Untouched except for the single sheet Claudia had barely finished reading. Claudia leaned forward now, elbows on the table. The formality had drained from her posture. She looked tired. Or maybe just honest. There's a culture here, she said. Fast-paced. Polished. We sometimes confuse polish with capability. Maya nodded slowly. I know. Claudia exhaled. And we filter applicants through that lens. We don't even realize we're doing it until someone doesn't fit the mold, Maya finished for her. Claudia looked down, then back up. You weren't what I expected. Maya smiled, just barely. You were. Claudia's lips parted, but she didn't defend herself. In the silence, something subtle shifted again. Not dramatic. Just honest. Finally. Claudia finally opened Maya's folder. The real one, thicker, detailed. A portfolio of initiatives, metrics, and letters of recommendation that bore more weight than any resume could. Page after page, she turned without comment. She paused halfway through a letter signed in bold blue ink. Her brows lifted slightly. Maya knew which one it was. The letter from the COO of a Fortune 100 company. A woman who had once called Maya the sharpest mind I've ever hired. Claudia set the page down gently. This changes the conversation, she said, almost to herself. Maya didn't reply. She had no need to defend what had already spoken for itself. Claudia looked up. I'd like to introduce you to the board. I assumed that's why I was here, Maya said, not coldly but firmly. Claudia nodded. Of course. She stood. But Maya didn't. Not yet. I have one question first, Maya said, her voice even. Would you have made that offer if you hadn't read the file? The question wasn't accusatory. Just clear. Claudia's mouth opened, then closed. Her eyes dropped for a moment. No, she admitted. There was no shame in how she said it. Just truth. Then let's go, Maya said, standing. The boardroom was larger, colder. Long glass table, high-backed chairs, a skyline view that screamed power. As Maya stepped inside, a few heads turned. The directors were mid-conversation, light, dismissive, the kind people have before the real meeting begins. Claudia entered behind her, suddenly more composed, posture squared again. This is Maya Collins, she announced, her voice projecting. Candidate for Executive Director of Strategic Operations. The room stilled. One man, gray suit, cufflinks, expensive watch barely concealed his surprise. He glanced at Claudia as if waiting for a correction. It didn't come. Another board member, a younger woman with sharp eyes, tilted her head slightly. We were expecting someone else. Claudia nodded. You were. Maya placed her portfolio on the table without invitation. If you have questions, she said calmly, I'm ready. A few directors shuffled papers, some leaning back in their chairs. Maya stood straight. Not defensive. Just grounded. She didn't need to raise her voice. Presence spoke louder than volume. The woman with the sharp eyes opened Maya's portfolio and began to read. The man in the gray suit folded his arms, watching. No one spoke for a long moment. They were recalibrating. 15 minutes in, no one asked about where Maya went to school. They asked about logistics models, international integration, labor retention, real questions. Because her answers, measured and precise, left no room for small talk. Even the man in the gray suit had stopped leaning back. At one point, he asked a detailed question about transition timelines across multiple departments. Maya answered before he finished. 17 weeks with phased rollouts every 4. Contingency built in. Pilot testing starts week 2. He didn't nod. But he didn't challenge her again. By the time the meeting wrapped, only 2 board members still looked uncertain. That was enough. As the room emptied, Claudia lingered behind. She watched Maya gather her things, slow and methodical. I don't think they expected this, Claudia said quietly. Maya looked up. I did. Claudia hesitated. You're going to change how some of them think. Maya's face remained calm. That's not my goal. Claudia raised an eyebrow. I'm here to do the job, Maya said simply. If it changes them, that's on them. She slid her folder into her tote. Nothing dramatic. No parting words. But as she walked out, the sharp-eyed board member followed her with her eyes, then whispered something to the man in the gray suit. He didn't respond. Just stared at the empty chair Maya had left behind. Still trying to figure out how he got her wrong before she even spoke. The silence that followed would say more than anyone dared to.